And now for our time of reflection.
Thank you for having me today. It's a real honor to meet all of you. I look forward to speaking with you more after the service. The two readings that I'd like to reflect on today, the first is in fact a reading from scripture, but it comes to me through more an oral tradition. I grew up Catholic, and the presentation of the child Jesus in the temple is the fourth mysteries of the Rosary. So it comes to me that way. So I'm just going to tell you the story instead of reading it. So it's the time in Jesus's infancy when his parents need to bring him to the temple in Jerusalem to offer him to God. And it's a time of joy. It's a time of stepping out. And Jesus comes as an infant in his mother's arms with Joseph by her side, and they come to the temple. And these two elderly prophet and prophetess meet them on the steps of the temple, Simeon and Anna. And Simeon and Anna have been waiting at the temple for a very, very long time, waiting, knowing that somehow the child, the Messiah, the one who has been foretold to come to Israel, is going to appear to them there somehow, some way. And in their seeing, they recognized something special in this child, Jesus, and they approached his parents. They said, this child is something special. Like, he's going to do something to hearts, and it's going to change people, and it's going to bring some fire. And then there's this moment at the end of the story, and it feels like a movie moment where it's the camera zooms in on Mary's face, and all of the crowds sort of become blurry around her. And Simeon says to Mary, and a sword shall pierce your heart too. The second reading is a reading from a book called Untie the Strong Woman by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. It is said by the old women of the family that the hilts of the swords piercing Our Lady's heart are shaped like the curling sepals which protect the buds of the roses. That with prayer and time, each sword hilt will burst into 7 fragrant roses, blooming again and again, because suffering brings the rain of tears, because the rain of tears waters the earth, because moisture on dry earth of our being is guaranteed to bring forth new life. Tears are a river that take you somewhere better, somewhere good. And I bless my heart today for its openness. Bless my voice and my lips for speaking. It's Mother's Day, 2021, 2 years ago. I'm in a rental apartment, one of those extended stay places with the little kitchenettes and hotel living room furniture. And I'm just sitting. I'm sitting on these couches that look plush and round, but somehow kind of feel like you're sitting on cardboard. Yeah. And I am holding a 8-week-old baby. The two of us are a still point in the middle of so much activity. Diapers, bottles, formula, clothing are being moved and moved again, from the bed to the table to suitcases large enough that I could fit comfortably curled into the fetal position. And there's questions and requests being shouted across the apartment in Mandarin Chinese, so my monolingual American brain can mostly just tune them out. And this memory for me is sort of like a time capsule. It's just encapsulated in my memory. Because I gaze down at this little child's face. He's dozing at my breast, but he's not getting any milk because I've dried myself up by that point. But he's humoring me and suckling a little bit. I look at him and the words of Khalil Gibran come to mind. Our children, they come through us, but not from us. Our children are with us, but they are not ours. And in my loftier parenting moments with any of my other 3 kids, I might invoke those words. But with this little child, they are literally true. This child came through me, but he is not mine. I carried this child for 9 months, but he holds none of my genetics. I am his gestational surrogate. And today, Mother's Day of all days, he's going home, to a home halfway across the world. Of course I knew this day was coming. This is what I signed up for. This is what the doctors and the psychological evaluators had made sure I was prepared for. But does being prepared for grief change it? I'm not sure. I'm still wondering about that. And maybe some of you know better than me. But for me, this moment, perhaps like any moment that brings a sword to our hearts, becomes like a portal into every other moment when we've had to love and when we've had to let go. People have a lot of questions for me about being a surrogate, and I love answering all of them. But one question they often ask is, how did you know that you would be okay? How did you know that you could carry a child and then not raise it? The short answer is I didn't know. But the longer answer is that I really feel like the Divine Mother has shown me a path from a pretty early age. This path that we all walk if we love anything outside of ourselves. This path that asks us to release that which is not ours, but that we love. You know, the Divine Mother comes to me kind of like my own mother used to. No subtlety. She just shows up. And my own mother passed away on the feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe. And as a Catholic, it's like, oh, okay. But how did I know I could be a mother in this way, a surrogate mother? I'm going to tell you a story of my other children, because it's this turning point for me. It's this portal that glimpses why I'd made this choice to go down this path. So between the moment of becoming a mother and the moment I chose to become a surrogate mother, a biological mother and a surrogate mother, there was this moment when I was driving on Highway 55 north, and my minivan was empty because I had just dropped my older two children off at their new home. Their dad, their stepmom, had just moved an hour and a half south of where I live in St. Louis. And we had all, as co-parents who had been co-parenting within St. Louis for the last 2 years, had made this decision. There is where their stepmom had family, where she was a teacher, where their dad would be a pastor. It was a decision we made open-eyed. But on that drive home, my mother heart was screaming in protest. This emptiness didn't feel right. This sword in my heart was so fresh and new that I wasn't really sure how to deal with it yet. So I remember walking with my friend like the week after, and my child's stepmother had posted a picture of our daughter. And she had written in the comments, "My little girl." And I remember with this friend cursing this woman. How dare she, the disrespect? She is my little girl. Who does she think she is? I am going to drive down there. My friend let me rattle off all of the nasty comments I wanted to write on that post. And when I wore myself out and finally stopped talking, my friend looked at me, and she's seen me through lots of life transitions. And so like only an old friend can, she looked at me and she said, "Jess, is this a problem? Is this a problem that another woman loves your children as much as you do?" Of course it's not a problem. I lash out because I miss them. I lash out because I am confused, because this is not how motherhood I thought would turn out. This is not how I pictured being a mother at a distance. Having other adults love my children, is that a problem? No, they are so lucky. But does it hurt? Hell yes. That sword hurts. And yet in that moment, a tiny bud appears on the hilt of that sword. And flowers would not bloom for a long time. It took years of tears to water that flower into bloom. And even though our garden of our blended family is beautiful and thriving, I still feel that sword anytime I missed a lost tooth or a shared holiday. So, did I know I was going to be okay? I did, but I also knew it wouldn't be easy. And that day, Mother's Day, 2 years ago, we packed up my minivan, now packed to the gills with suitcases, and Kenta, my little Suro baby, and Highway, his dad, and we drove to the airport. And I helped them unload and put them by the curb. COVID times, I wasn't going in with them. But Highway and I, we hugged, we held each other. You know, he was letting go too that day. So for that moment, we just uttered thank yous for this life that we had brought into the world together. Kenta was sleeping in his car seat, so I didn't want to wake him up. So I just kissed my hand and kissed his cheek. And I got back in my car and I drove away. And I knew this was the time of watering. I was prepared for it. I had a sad playlist ready. And I drove weeping. I had prepared a space. My kid's dad, both of my kids' dads, my husband and my ex-husband, took the kids that day so that I could have space just to mourn. And in that weeping, it's like my mother heart was on fire, just processing everything that happened. And it's funny how in those moments where I feel the Divine Mother so present, I also feel so much like a child, crying just so much for wanting to be held by a mother that's bigger than me. And I feel like those experiences are not at odds. They are a paradox that feels just right. But my watering fest was interrupted by a phone call. It was Highway. He couldn't find his ID. He couldn't get through security without his ID. Please, could you stop and look? Is my ID in the car somewhere? So, okay. So I pull over, I open the sliding door, and mercifully, the ID is laying on the ground in my backseat. So I drive so fast back to the airport, and I run into the airport, and I hand him his ID, no sentimentality whatsoever in this moment or exchange. I blow a kiss to Kenta, and I jog back to my illegally parked vehicle. And that was my Mother's Day, 2021. Mother's Day is not simple, I don't think, for any of us. Today, I just would like to take pause and honor all of these places that, no matter your gender, these places where you love so hard it hurts, all of the stories and lessons that I hope are bubbling up in you, honoring those places where maybe there's a sword, maybe there's a bud, maybe there's a bloom, wherever you are in that process. I haven't spoken really at length in this talk about the Divine Mother or the Goddess, which I think is why I was invited. But I chose today instead to speak of my own heart. Because for me, my devotion to the Goddess and my faith is rooted in ordinary life. For me, the Divine Mother's flowers bloom in our ordinary experiences. And I share my story with the hope that you can share your story today with me or someone else you love. So, as a closing, a little epilogue, because Kenta is 2 now. I get pictures from him daily because he's the first child and they take lots of pictures. And just last week, I received a message from his dad. In China, they celebrate Children's Day on June 1st. And he said, so Kenta is going to this little neighborhood preschool now. And at their school, the school asked all the parents to send in a 20-second video of blessing. And so Highway, his dad, asked if I would send a video blessing for Children's Day. That's what I did right before I came here. I recorded a video for Kenta. And the sword at that request, but how I can smell the roses. Thank you.